Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. I'm Frank Granito and I'm joined in the studio today by my partner, Donald Eng. Don, how was your weekend?
Not too much to complain about there, Frank. The weather was great, thank you very much, by the way. As long as I just have to find a way to sabotage Odell Beckham Jr.'s relationship now, and I'm good to go.
Odell and the kicking net seem to be getting along swimmingly now, and there's going to be plenty more weather, good weather coming along your way. Don, luckily, though, we made it through separation Saturday in the FCIAC unscathed, but there were a couple teams who were not as lucky as we were.
No, this was the weekend that teams begin to separate themselves at the top of the conference, particularly in that Class L division where the majority of the FCIAC teams play. That second loss, that dropping to 3-2, has put some of those teams in position where they're going to need to run the table and get some tough competition. They are squarely now on the bubble. Plus, the performance of some of the teams that we saw on Saturday makes some matchups later on in the season look especially interesting. I am thinking primarily of St. Joseph versus Trumbull. St. Joe's, I wrote them off earlier in the season. They've played very well, now at 4-1. That Thanksgiving Day matchup against Trumbull could have playoff implications for both teams.
There are a lot of interesting games left on the calendar now moving forward. We entered this weekend with 7 teams that had a record of 3-1 in the conference, but there are only 3 of those teams that remain now.
Very true. Not to mention there was that one team that was 1-3 that we said last week could play havoc with the playoff dreams of some of the other schools, and it did so. That story, plus a heartwarming story out of Norwalk. This was the best weekend of football in the conference so far this year.
I completely agree. We really thought that this would be the weekend where we saw teams, and we said it, separation Saturday. Teams were going to break apart the pack. You're going to have the top half of the conference and the bottom half, and it lived up to the hype. And I'll come out and say it. Trinity beating Ridgefield really throws a wrench into the Class L playoffs because we had a feeling that was a Ridgefield team that would be there until the end of the season. Now with 2 losses, they can't afford another one, and they've got arguably the toughest schedule in the conference left.
They really do. They've got a lot of the top teams left, and just with 2 losses. Even with 2 losses, you may need help to get into the Class L playoffs. 3 losses, and you are just certainly out. So Ridgefield now cannot afford another slip up the rest of the way, as you said, against some very tough competition.
They have got Staples and Greenwich left on the schedule. They'll have Danbury on Thanksgiving, but facing 2 losses right now, that's just as tough as it's going to get for the Tigers there. But kudos to Trinity Catholic, who stepped up and proved to be the biggest surprise, I thought, on that Saturday. We'll have a lot more coverage of the 9 FCIAC games from this past weekend, but before we get to all of that, we've got the HAN Network's Athlete of the Week presented by Runner's Roost. And let's start with the Week 4 winners, which we announced on FCIAC Tailgate on Saturday afternoon. Our female Athlete of the Week was Bridget Malloy of the Staples Field Hockey Team. She received 648 votes. The runner-up was Katie Linekin of Ridgefield Volleyball, tallying 490 votes. The Week 4 Male Athlete of the Week winner was Adrian Chung Wilkes of the West Hill Boys Soccer Team, who edged out Ziggy Hallgarten of the Staples Boys Soccer Team by only 38 votes, our closest margin of victory to date. Another exciting week. For the first time, Don, as we're going to hear in our nominees, we're not going to have a soccer player winning for the boys in the upcoming week.
No, we won't. We may have one winning for the girls, though, as we get into the female nominees. Meredith Pellegrino, Brian McMahon Volleyball, 32 kills. Your first nominee, 32 kills, leading the Senators to a 3-2 win over Staples. Pellegrino had 12 digs and 10 service points as McMahon improved to 11-1 overall, 8-1 in the FCIAC. Soccer player Jessica Mazzo of St. Joseph assisted on all 3 goals as the Cadets defeated previously unbeaten West Hill and Ridgefield. Mazzo set up both goals in a 2-0 triumph over West Hill, then a free kick that Lindsay Savko converted for the lone goal in the Cadets' 1-0 victory over Ridgefield. Your next nominee is Kendall Curtin of New Canaan Soccer. She made 7 saves as New Canaan handed the Ridgefield Tigers their first loss of the season, 1-0 Thursday at Connor Field. Curtin is a junior. She made her biggest play in the final minute. She punched away a ball on a great free kick by the Tigers. New Canaan is now 5-3-4 on the season in 8th place in the FCIAC. Ellery Barron of New Canaan Field Hockey racked up 5 points on a goal and 4 assists as New Canaan knocked off FCIAC playoff contender Trumbull 6-2 last Tuesday at Dunning Field. With the game tied 1-1 early on, the Rams closed the first half with 3 straight goals. Barron netted 1 and had assists on the other 2. She had 2 more assists in the second half. And your next nominee, Morgan McCormick of Wilton Cross Country. The Wilton Cross Country team claimed its first East Division title in 6 years by winning 2 of 3 races last Tuesday in Greenwich. The final race of the regular season, the Warriors finished 13-2. They were led by McCormick, who won the 2.9-mile race in a time of 7 minutes, 57.87 seconds, breaking the course record at Todd's Point Park. And now for the male nominees, we'll go back to Frank.
Thank you, Don, and a lot of impressive nominees there. We got to see Mazzo and Meredith Pellegrino in action last week. Both of them very deserving nominees here.
Yes, if they get a good set near the net, it's probably hitting the ground on your side.
Let's take a look at the Week 5 male nominees, and let's start with Brandon Holtzclaw of the West Hill football team. Holtzclaw recorded 5 sacks in the Vikings' 21-0 victory over the Ludlow Falcons on Saturday. West Hill had a total of 8 sacks, but it was really Holtzclaw's performance that stood out most of all as West Hill's defense led the Vikings to their second win of the season. Kevin Iobi of Greenwich Football, a name we've heard before, was added again. Iobi rushed 41 times for 247 yards and 4 touchdowns as the Greenwich Cardinals won a high-scoring game with the Trumbull Eagles 42-32 Saturday at Cardinal Stadium. Iobi scored on runs twice from 1 yard out, once from 3 yards out, and iced the game over with his 59-yard touchdown run late in the fourth quarter. Corey Babineau of St. Joe's Football. Babineau went 24 of 35, throwing for 268 yards and 3 touchdowns, and added 1 more touchdown on the ground, accounting for all 4 of the Cadets' scores. In their 31-15 victory over the 3-1 Wilton Warriors, St. Joe's improved to 4-1 on the season and moved up to 4th in the CIAC Class M standings. David Summers of the Fairfield Ward football team. Summers threw for 2 touchdown passes and ran for another score to lead Ward on a vigorous comeback in their 36-28 win over the previously unbeaten Warren Harding Presidents. Summer tossed scoring passes of 11 and 16 yards, ran 1 in from 3 yards out. The Mustangs pick up their first win of the season, now 1-4. And Alexander Koyasakov in the Cardinals' final meet, the Greenwich Cross Country runner. The sophomore finished first overall with an impressive time of 16:16 on the 2.9-mile course at Greenwich Point. So, Don, we have 10 deserving nominees, and now the fans and our viewers will get to decide who will be named the HAN Network's Week 5 Athletes of the Week, presented by Runner's Roost.
You know, it's always so hard to pick. I like to go down the list and I just kind of scan it as I'm reading and I'm thinking, okay, who would I vote for? And then and I can never get to the end and I can never figure it out. On the girls' side, 4 different sports represented among the 5 nominees, and even among the 2 soccer players. You have a scoring machine versus the hot goalie. So if you're a fan of a particular sport, even if you're not a fan, depending on what school you go to, if you're a fan of a particular sport and you want to see that sport get some on-air love, make sure you log on and vote.
And of course, you look at the males. We didn't have any football players last week because of the bye weekend, but they came back furiously. And the numbers there, you've got 3 players who accounted for 3+ touchdowns. You've got a defensive end who originally we thought had broken the state record for sacks. Oh, he only had 5 now, but I mean, that's just still incredible against that Falcons offense. So a lot of great nominees to choose from. We'll see what you pick. We'll reveal the results on FCIAC Tailgate this Friday afternoon. The voting will be open until 11:59 a.m. on Friday. You can vote at HAN.network. But Don and I are going to take a break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, we will break down all 9 of the FCIAC football games that were in action over the weekend, right here on the HAN Network.
1, 2, 3, Abby! You know! I want to find out how good I am. Yes, sir! If you relax, you get blown out. Let's get it done! Let's get it done!
What can you take advantage of right now?
Yeah, come on. I can push myself way beyond what you think.
Pressure technique. Bring it back.
Want a new experience in car buying? No aggravation, no confrontation, just answers to all your questions. Scap Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Car buying the way you want it to be. With one of the largest selections of new 2- and 4-door Jeep Wranglers available, we are Connecticut's Wrangler headquarters. Located in Fairfield, Connecticut, we're easy to get to. Just 2.5 miles off the Merritt Parkway, exit 44 via Route 58 South. Save thousands right now during the Jeep Celebration event and Ram Power Days. Ends October 31st.
Connecticut is coming back to hometown banking, to a partner that makes small businesses feel big, where community comes first, where high-tech tools go hand in hand with a human touch, where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver, where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well, bank smart, bank local, bank well.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
When it comes to local entertainment, we've got it all.
From movies, local artists, etiquette, and more.
Watch HAN Arts and Leisure with me, Steve Coulter, and our Arts and Leisure editor, Sally Sanders, Mondays at 12:30, right here on the HAN Network.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in our studio today as we get set to take a look back on the Week 6 FCIAC football schedule. And let's start with our game of the week, Don. Saturday afternoon, the HAN Network was live at St. Joseph High School for FCIAC football between the Wilton Warriors and the St. Joe's Cadets. Both teams came into the game with records of 3-1 and were looking to position themselves in the Class L and Class M state rankings. It was the Cadets early on as they jumped out 24-0 on their way to a 31-15 victory, Don. Corey Babineau accounting for all 4 of the St. Joseph touchdowns, including 3 to sophomore receiver Philip Passmeg. Senior Jared Malazzi set a single-game record with 12 catches. Another great performance from this St. Joe's offense.
It really was, and you know, last week I had said that I philosophically prefer quick strike teams because with St. Joe's up by 24 points, I was feeling pretty comfortable that a physical, grinded out running team like Wilton couldn't come back, and then here they came. So I was a little bit nervous for a bit. St. Joe's hung on for the win.
And there was a lot. You have to give a lot of credit to the Warriors. They had to sit quarterback Matt DeLisa in the second half, but he still played free safety, had a very impactful game from the defensive side. But in the end, I thought it was the St. Joe's defense that really proved to be the difference, shutting down the comeback efforts. They had 3 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, a great game from the Cadets. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from Saturday's action.
Ace formation. Babineau looking left, comes back to the right, strike over the middle. He's got Pesmig. Touchdown, Cadets. Beautiful pass. Malazzi in motion. They fake the shirt and fake the end around. 2 receivers wide open. And that's like stealing. Pesmig with his second touchdown of the afternoon. What a well set up play that was, Kevin.
Man, Babineau just makes it look so easy.
Babineau. And that wildcat position, he's got several linemen up ahead of him. The snap was too high. He's able to stay with it and splits through the heart of the defense. Touchdown, Cadets.
And on a high snap where you thought maybe he was going to lose the ball, excellent job by...
Back here on the HAN Network, 4th and 5 for the Warriors. Low snap, Calabresi's got to throw to the right side, making the catch and fighting forward, close to the goal line because he's going to cross. Touchdown, Warriors. Fumble the snap, able to recover. Now he's flushed out. Osborne applying pressure, throwing it up. Herman going to make the catch. He got it.
What a catch.
So St. Joe's with the win improves to 4-1 on the season. Wilton now falls to 3-2. Let's start with Wilton here, Don. DeLisa comes out after throwing an early interception in the second half. They go to senior Brian Calabrese, much smaller standing there in the pocket, but the little guy had a great afternoon after that once he got going in the second half.
Yeah, and and look at the athleticism there on that second touchdown pass we saw on the highlights. Dropped the shotgun snap, had to kind of dive to pick it up without putting his knee down on the ground, and then get up and throw a touchdown pass. So that was some impressive athleticism there.
It was just a little too little too late, really, for Wilton. There were times in the first half where they seemed a little too committed to the run. They had an early interception that I wish DeLisa wishes he could have had back. But you look at St. Joe's, you talked about quick striking. Jared Malazzi had 12 catches for 97 yards. It wasn't his. It was the first game all year. He was held out of the end zone. Certainly wasn't his best day, despite setting the school record. But 6 or 7 of his catches might have come just on quick screen passes. They found ways to get him the ball, and it set up the rest of the playbook.
No, it certainly did. And when you throw the ball, when you have a receiver like that draws that much attention. Of course, it opens the field for everyone else. But great job by Wilton. On the defense. He was catching balls, but he wasn't breaking big plays. They were able to keep him contained and stay in this game. So for Wilton now at 3-2, it's a tough road to hoe in Class L, still with Darien and Trinity Catholic on the schedule. So really, Wilton can't afford any more slip-ups.
And you talk about the Darien defense. We mentioned DeLisa having a great game at the safety position. I thought 2 players who we expected to make impacts on offense were going to be fullback Harvey Alexander and running back Will Litton. I said early on, Will Litton should probably expect to get 20 to 25 carries in that game. He was cut off at 13. Didn't have as much success as he wanted, but both Litton and Alexander were flying around on defense, constantly around the ball. They led the team in tackles on the defensive side. And
it's funny to say, but with Wilton falling to 3-2, I thought this was one of the more impressive performances of the season in the loss. I really thought they played good, tough football.
That's a tough place to go. We had a lot of fun being at St. Joseph's on Saturday. Just a great atmosphere. Kevin Coleman and I were talking on the call. You get a real tailgate, a college atmosphere feel with all the tents set up, the grilling going on. They had their breast cancer awareness game as well, so it was a lot of fun for us to be there.
Yeah, always a big crowd, always great fan support at St. Joe's. So it is one of the great places to watch a football game in Connecticut.
That was one of the 3 matchups this weekend in the FCIAC that included 2 3-1 teams. Another big one on Saturday afternoon was Trumbull and Greenwich from Cardinal Stadium. This had state implications like no other game, Don. You had the number 13 team and the number 14 team in Class L. This was a game last year Greenwich felt they should have won. They slipped away from them, Trumbull stealing one there, but Greenwich comes out on top in this one, 42-32, behind another monster effort from the senior Kevin Iobi.
Yeah, 41 carries for 40-some yards, and also was catching passes out of the backfield. Talk about a workhorse, really getting it done against a Trumbull defense that I thought actually didn't play badly, just too much Iobi for them to handle.
It was, and similar to what we saw when Greenwich played against Trinity Catholic, I thought their offense was so successful because they were able to dominate the line of scrimmage again. Iobi had big holes to run through, and when he gets into the second level of defenders, he is shifty enough to make linebackers miss and strong enough to break through secondary tackles.
He really was, and I didn't think Greenwich's line would be able to really get that kind of a push against Trumbull's line. I thought Greenwich's line was a little bit bigger than Trumbull's, but they actually performed better than I expected. So Greenwich now has moved up to number 9 in the Class L rankings, still with games at New Canaan, at Ridgefield, and then Staples at home on Thanksgiving. They also, speaking of tough schedules the rest of the way, Greenwich has one. The benefit they have is that they play Staples, who's 1 game ahead of them in 8th place. Also, a lot of those SCC schools in there. I'm talking about Shelton, West Haven, Fairfield Prep, Cheshire, all ranked ahead of Greenwich. Those teams all still have to play each other, so some of those teams could have 2, maybe 3 more losses the rest of the way.
And you have to figure Greenwich with those 3 teams is allowed maybe 1 more loss. Obviously, they're not playing with that kind of mentality, but you have to think, should they slip up against New Canaan, Ridgefield, or Staples? They finished the season with 2 losses. They're still very much eligible and more than likely to qualify. Staples has still got to play Darien, so that game on Thanksgiving could be huge for those 2 teams if they both come in with a record of 7-2. and the state playoffs on the line there.
Right, and now that both of them are in Class LL, it's essentially you look at that as a play-in game for the state playoffs. And speaking of having a tough road ahead of them, Ridgefield has dropped all the way to 16th at 3-2. Trumbull now is 20th, and the problem Trumbull's going to have is they've got winnable games on the schedule. They've got Bridgeport Central, they've got Bryan McMahon on the schedule. Those are two winless teams, though, and so you really don't get a lot of bonus points helping you out there. Their other games: New Canaan, Norwalk, St. Joseph. They're going to have to win all three of those games. That's a big ask. That's a tough way to get into the playoffs.
And you look at Trumbull now, who's got to be so disappointed. They've got a little bit of an easier schedule left, but still, as you mentioned, St. Joseph's coming up on Thanksgiving. But before that, they've got the New Canaan Rams coming to town. Let's take a break here. When we get back, we're going to have what the New Canaan Rams did this weekend and their hopes to stay undefeated. And, of course, we're going to be at Dunning Stadium this weekend on Friday night when Greenwich and Johnny Marinelli make their return to Dunning. That'll all be right here on the HAN Network after this.
This is now 44 years I've been in this business. Digital came along. After I was in business for about 6 years, I had to totally reinvent the business. So I had to make a tremendous investment in my business. And Milford Bank was there for me. I don't really just consider Milford Bank a bank. I consider them a trusted partner in my business. My name is Jim Wilson, owner of Milford Photo. I choose to bank with Milford Bank.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. InSports College Baseball Coaches Camp takes place at InSports on October 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This unique, limited-space event features many of the area's top college baseball coaches who will work with high school players in a hands-on clinic setting, as well as evaluate their infield skills. For more information, contact Mike Buswell at InSports, 203-268-1214. Like and follow us on Facebook.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN Network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network, and we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in the studio as we take a look at the rest of the FCIAC slate from over the weekend. Let's go back to Thursday afternoon. We did have one game there. Norwalk on top of Central, 49-22. Norwalk now 3-2. Will travel to West Hill. Central still looking for that first win. They've got a rebound against Trumbull, who's going to be a little upset, I think, Don. But again, it's a closer game, I think, than we thought. Credit to Norwalk taking care of business, but I'm right there with you. Central is a year away from bringing themselves back to relevancy.
Yeah, I'll get to Central in a second, but look at Norwalk quietly having a solid season there. Very good chance to move to 4-2 this coming weekend. And as for Central, yeah, they are now 0-4 with Trumbull and then Ridgefield. That November 5th game against Fairfield Ludlow could be two teams both in search of their first win. Ludlow 0-5, Central 0-4. Ludlow still has Trinity Catholic and Greenwich before November 5th versus Bridgeport Central.
And we can remember meeting with the Central captains. That Ludlow game is the one they circled on the calendar, so that should be a lot of fun. Heading to Friday night, Staples able to bounce back from the disappointing loss against NFA. They defeated Stanford 42-13. That was the final matchup of 3-1 teams this weekend. Elliott Pooley ran for 3 touchdowns. Harrison Levy added 2. Andrew Speed back into the lineup. He threw a touchdown on the first possession. It's a different Wreckers team, Dom, when they've got Speed playing quarterback for them.
No, they really are, and not only are they different on offense, they just the defense appeared to just to kind of perk up a little bit. Probably maybe sometimes it's one of those things where a baseball team hits better when their best pitcher is on the mound. It might be one of those psychological boosts also. Staples now 5-1, holding down the 8th spot in the Class AA playoff rankings. Still quite a few tough games to go. Ridgefield, St. Joe's, Darien, Greenwich now is how Staples closes their season.
Yeah, and they've got Ridgefield this week. That should be a really good one. Stanford goes to Wilton. We thought Tyreek Evans might have had a chance to run wild against this Staples defense after what NFA's Juwan Johnson had done, but that was not the case. The other game on Friday night, Fairfield Ward gets their first win, knocking off previously unbeaten Harding 36-28 in overtime. Ward outscored Harding 30-8 in the second half and overtime. Harding went for it on 4th down from their own 2-yard line, tried a fake punt. Ward would go on and tie the game 3 plays later. David Summers, one of our Athlete of the Week nominees, totaling 3 touchdowns in the game. Jack Curtis's 2 rushing touchdowns, including the game-winning one in overtime. What a huge win for the Mustangs, though. I checked into this game at halftime, thought for sure it was over. Harding might hit 40 points again. Didn't see until the next morning the amazing comeback.
No, I thought, at halftime I thought this game was over also. In fact, I thought it was over before that because Harding was putting points on the board like they always do. I got to admit, I didn't count on Ward showing that kind of fight in the second half, going right at a Harding team that had blown out some previous FCIAC competition, Danbury. Harding now 5th place in Class L. Still has one more FCIAC game to go, their annual Thanksgiving game against Bridgeport Central.
Ward will have St. Joe's come to town this weekend as they look to collect their second win of the year, stringing victories together. Now we head to the Saturday slate. Let's start Ridgefield at Trinity. The Tigers come in 3-1 and Trinity 1-3. We said Trinity needs to win out to have any kind of chance to qualify for the postseason. And the toughest game they were going to have to play was this one. And what a win it was for the Crusaders.
It was really great. We were saying it so often that we kind of thought we were sounding stale. That Trinity Catholic best 1-2 team in the state, best 1-3 team in the state. We said they were going to have something to say about the FCIAC playoff chances, and this was the week they did. I mean, at 2-3, they're good. They're going to need some help. They are now 22nd in the rankings, and the problem is a lot of the schools ahead of them really don't seem very likely to lose. Trinity will get big bonus points almost every week, though, playing Class L and Double L teams as a Class S team. Trinity, coming off that win over Ridgefield, now has Ludlow, West Hill, Stamford, Central, and Wilton. So, I mean, it's possible. It's unlikely, I'd have to say, and even if they pull it off, they probably still come up a little bit short, but it's possible. Hope is not lost yet.
No, the Crusaders will have to run the board, and I agree they'll need some help, but they've made it interesting following this win.
And if they get in, who knows?
You had Ludlow at West Hill, the final score in that one. West Hill 21-0 over the Falcons. Fairfield Ludlow still winless on the year and struggling to get anything going. Holtzclaw for the Vikings, another one of those Athlete of the Week nominees, the 5 sacks. It's more than likely that we're going to see Ludlow and Central heading into those games winless this year, I think.
It seems that does seem like the way it's trending, and then Ludlow will have another chance against a Fairfield Ward team that may be like a 1 or 2 win team on Thanksgiving. And I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, they simply could not block West Hill. 8 sacks and including 5 by one player.
West Hill and Norwalk, an interesting game to keep your eye on this week, and I think that's an under the radar matchup that could be a good one. Let's take a look now at the final 2 teams in the final 2 games, including undefeated teams. New Canaan handled Danbury on their homecoming game. The Rams now 5-0. Get ready for Marinelli Bowl number 2. Danbury falls to 0-5. Life does not get easier as they have got to go and play the Darien Blue Wave.
No, Darien. Danbury just not a lot of not a lot of time to recover and regain their bearings. It's just been one tough loss after another for the Hatters. Although, a little bit of foreshadowing here. Darien, I thought, showed some vulnerability against the run in their game. What do you think about that?
Well, that brings us to the Darien game. And there's one of the coolest stories from the entire season that we're going to see right now. It was probably the play of the year, in my opinion, that took place during Saturday's contest between the Senators and the Blue Wave. Let's take a look at the highlight, courtesy of McMahon sophomore Michael McCarry.
Come on, James! Come on, James! Come on, James!
Yeah! Whatever, I didn't think early.
Number 63 with the touchdown, Jamie Taylor.
There you go, Jamie! So that is senior Jamie Taylor scoring on the 60-yard rush. Taylor, who has Down syndrome, has been a part of the McMahon team for 4 years and was given the opportunity late in the fourth quarter to run the ball for the Senators and capitalized, finding the end zone. You could see Coach A.J. Albano tipping his cap to the Darien sideline as Jamie ran down the field. Don, that is truly one of the best plays I think we are going to see all year long.
And that is just the great thing about sports is that it can get a bad rap at times, but sometimes it just delivers these magical moments. I mean, the excitement that the excitement for the kids, even from the Darien kids, just so happy to be a part of this. McMahon story. I just thought that was just one of the great things I've seen so far this year.
It was really cool, and it's such a class move from Darien, and I said this during the broadcast too. I think it's a class move by Coach Albano and the Senators, keeping a player like Jamie Taylor a part of the program, and you could just get that feeling of all the guys on the team who were they're losing by 40 points in that game, but how excited they were to see one of their brothers scoring on that last play. So
it's really you just can't say enough about it. I mean, it's just a great story all around. One of the great things we'll cover this year.
So congrats again to Jamie on scoring the touchdown. That's going to do it for Nutmeg Sports today. Make sure you tune in with us tomorrow. We'll have all the other FCIAC sports that were in action over the weekend. We've got cross-country championships coming up on Wednesday, and we've got the Battle of the Fairfields in boys soccer tomorrow night, Don.
And those two crosstown rivals, just always great in whatever the sport, whatever the season, always fun when those two teams get together.
It's going to be a very exciting week that will wrap up Friday night when we've got Greenwich at New Canaan for boys football. Make sure that you vote for the Athlete of the Week at HAN Network, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Coffee break at 11 with Kate Czaplinski. We got the Drive with the Niece at 12:30.